I'm Rachel. It's really nice to be here. So I'm going to talk, hopefully for not too long. I'll try not to rattle on too much, but for about 15 minutes about kind of my journey in sustainable sequins. So I'll talk a little bit about my MA when I first started working with sequins, setting up the sustainable sequin company and working with recycled plastics to make sequins, and then the work that I've done after that, which is developing biodegradable, bio-based sequins, and finally, briefly at the end, a little bit about sustainable fashion, particularly at Christmas when there's loads of sequins around. All the work that I've done has kind of stemmed from the belief that parties, social things like that, they are fun and they're exciting. They're important for people to go to, and also that we want to look good. Sustainable fashion shouldn't be really boring and bland. So basically, sequins are fabulous, but also they're an environmental disaster. And I think it's only fairly recently that people have really thought about what sequins are made from, and they're made from plastic. They're made from synthetic plastics. They're non-biodegradable. They cause huge environmental and health issues during manufacture, use, and disposal. So every point of their life cycle. So when I studied for an MA in fashion and environment, it was back in 2012 at London College of Fashion. My project then focused on sequined party wear. I wasn't necessarily looking at sequins at the beginning. It was more about appropriate durability. So I just didn't think it seemed appropriate that you'd have a dress that was decorated with plastic sequins that was going to last for hundreds of years, but the dress itself might only get worn for a few hours. So the durability didn't seem appropriate for the use. And when I looked in people's wardrobes and when I did research into this, I found that the clothes in wardrobes that are worn the least are things like party wear, stuff for occasions and things like that. And it's because there might be a lack of occasions to wear the things to. People want to wear different stuff at each party they go to, particularly because there's going to be pictures that are shared afterwards. But at the same time, people find it hard to get rid of these clothes, even if they're not wearing them, because they've spent a lot of money on them. They're in great condition because they've barely been worn. And they've got happy memories of wearing the clothes. So it's basically just kind of waste within the wardrobe. So a waste of resources, a waste of the labour that's been used to make something, and also a kind of wasted joy of these clothes being able to be worn. So really the problem kind of is that the raw materials from which sequins are made, so fossil fuels, and the waste created by short-term use of a long-lasting material. So I started making bioplastic sequins as an alternative to the synthetic plastic ones. So these are the ones that I did during my MA, so just at home. And I used a range of ingredients and ratios and processes until I could come up with some sequins that were quite bright, quite shiny, and they're not exact, they're not perfect. They don't look the same as a synthetic plastic sequin. But one of the materials I was working with was starch, and kind of the conceived limitations of starch, that it's water sensitive, that it's not very strong. I decided that it'd be really good to exploit. So to make sequins that would dissolve in water. And then I made a dress using these sequins. So this is the same dress, just 3 different phases of it. So to begin with, we've got a dress with the sequins on. You can go out to your party. In the middle kind of phase of the middle life of the dress, the top layer has been dissolved. So the natural dye that's within the bioplastic sequins has come out, and it's coloured the top layer of the dress. Because the dress has got a couple of different fibre types in it, the dye is taken differently to the different fibres in there. And then in the kind of the final third kind of incarnation of the dress, the bottom layer has been dissolved as well. So the sequins that did look kind of black have actually got a green dye in them, and that's come out into that one. So the idea is that if you're only going to wear your dress a couple of times, the sequins only need to last that long. So after the party's done, sequins can be dissolved, a bit like Cinderella. The dress is gone. You've got a dress you can wear kind of for the rest of the time. So that was kind of the end of the end of my MA. And then so about 6 years ago, when I was about 7 months pregnant with my second child, I decided to set up a sustainable sequin company. So it wasn't maybe the best time to set something up, but I was on maternity leave, so it sort of worked. And I wanted to use what I'd learned during my MA to create a practical solution to the problem of synthetic plastic sequins. And it's been quite a big learning curve setting up the business. And my aim has always been to develop commercially viable biodegradable sequins, so not ones that dissolve in water. But I decided to start off using a recycled PET. And then I thought I'd put any money that I earned into funding the development of sustainable options. I mean, that was really naive because I barely earned any money. And I didn't realise how much it would cost kind of to do research. But I applied for and received a government-backed startup loan, and I bought some equipment and some film, and I set up in business. So I've got a couple of large punching machines, and I put different die sets into those, and then I can punch out different sequins. So I can create sequins for hand application, so kind of on the left of the screen, sequins on the spool for digital application, and I've also got a little cutting machine, so I can do bespoke work for designers as well, which is quite nice. There is a problem kind of with waste. So the solution that I've been working on with sequins is to create a material that can be used in the conventional processing, so a film, and then shapes get punched out of it. So if you do punch sequins, there'll be waste film left over, and usually it's about 30% of the total film is waste. So that might be the punchinella, the film with the shapes cut out. It might be little bits of fixing holes and things. So I tried to design the punch sets to have as little waste as possible, but you're still going to get waste. So I either sell on or donate the punch film, and then been looking at other products I can make using the waste as well, like these little buttons that have got the fixing holes kind of set into them. And at the moment, I work with film which is 20% recycled synthetic plastic. There's no PVC in it, which is in quite a lot of conventional sequins, which is really terrible. And even using a percentage of recycled film means that we've got reduced waste, we've got reduced pollution, reduced energy use, and increased resource efficiency in comparison to conventional plastic sequins. But it's not ideal. When I started out, I could get 100% recycled plastic film. During the pandemic, I could only get 20% recycled. Now I can get 100 again, but I've got a load of 20% recycled plastic to stock to use up. And I think really the direction of my business isn't to go back to using 100% recycled. It's really to focus on the biodegradable sequins. Because even if I can get 100% recycled plastic, there's still problems at end of life. There's not these sequins aren't going to get aren't going to get taken off something and recycled. The infrastructure just isn't there. It's obviously good to recycle, but it's not the answer to everything. So since then, I have been working trying to produce biodegradable sequins, and I'm really terrible. Sorry, because I always say biodegradable, but I'm really talking. When we started off, we didn't really know what that would look like, whether it was home compostable, industrial composting. And mostly when I'm saying biodegradable, I mean industrial composting. So sorry, it's something I always say. I worked with the wonderful Biocomposite Centre at Bangor University, and we produced some bio-based and biodegradable plastics. And the film was a really nice quality. It was flat, it was even. I could produce I managed to produce some sequins from it. But the film, it didn't respond well to stress. And I don't either. But when the sequins were bent, it made white lines appeared. And we also had a problem, and this has actually been an ongoing problem as well, of trying to get a film which is transparent and not like really brittle. And they also have quite a low melting point. But it was a really good project to help me to understand what I did and didn't want from a sequin. And then I realised I needed to apply for some grants if I wanted to do more research into this and get the biodegradable bio-based sequins to work. So I applied for an Innovate UK Sustainable Innovation Grant with the University of Leeds and a designer called Paula Noor. And we were awarded some money, and this was in 2020, November 2020, and we aimed to produce a prototype film. And we wanted it to be made from a sustainable, renewable feedstock. We wanted it to be not from fossil fuel, so no oil based. Wanted it to be vegan, so there was no animal products in it. Washable, flexible, and durable in use. I wanted it to be shiny and transparent. This is kind of like my wish list. And capable of biodegrading end of life. And like I said, at the time, we didn't really know what we meant by that, whether it was home compostable or industrial composting, because there's always that that compromise. We weren't quite because we wanted the film to be washable. We had to think about what that would mean at end of life, because anything we make has got to be able to be used, otherwise it's not sustainable at all. It's just creating something that isn't a replacement. They can't be used. So our first step was to identify sustainable renewable resources. We looked at starch, cellulose, alginate polymers, and for producing bacteria from waste or agricultural byproducts, and we tried those different feedstocks, and we made some film which was like beautifully clear, but ultimately not washable. So it was that compromise between aesthetics, between practicality, and between sustainability that we had to get right. We tried adding colour to the feedstock to produce coloured film rather than printing on top of the film, which is normal kind of with sequins. And the sequin wasn't perfect again, but it kind of moved us further along. And then the project I'm working on currently is a Future Fashion Factory, so FFF project, and that's with the University of Leeds and the Royal College of Art. And we're trying to perfect the film now, the bio-based biodegradable sequin film, and we're looking at experimenting with different colours and shapes. So it's starting to get something that does look more like a conventional synthetic plastic sequin. And it's still not a perfect replacement for synthetic plastic sequins, but I think we're kind of finally at a point where we've got a minimal viable product that can work in certain colours. And we've tried sequins for hand application. So the last slide has got some sequins that are hand stitched on. It'll work for bespoke work, and importantly, it'll also work for digital work as well. So there's a designer called Lee Hurst that made this jacket using the sequins, because it's really important that we can produce something that can be used by the whole industry. So it's not just the really high-end stuff, but kind of more than the mass production side of things as well. So if we can produce some sequins from renewable and industrially compostable resources, then we can reduce the consumption of fossil fuels and the associated kind of climate warming greenhouse gases. And if we replace PVC, which you find in many conventional sequins, with bioplastic, then it will reduce the toxic bioaccumulative chemicals, including carcinogens and hormone disruptors. So I'm really excited. I think I'm kind of getting to a point where we can get these into production. Now, like I say, probably in the clear, the kind of translucent colour and the white. There's loads more work to be done. There's going to be loads more funding I need to apply for, or people, different brands to work with. But we're kind of getting there. So, Christmas shopping. I really love sequins, but conventional sequins are a massive problem. And this is quite a well-known kind of quote now, which I probably can't, depending on where you've got your gallery, you might not be able to see the whole other thing. But 1.7 million sequined items of clothing will end up in landfill after Christmas in the UK alone. I mean, that's massive. But in a way, it's not that surprising, because when we think about looking at any newspapers or magazines at the moment, they've all got like the best Christmas dresses, and the majority of them have got sequins on them, and they're great. I mean, these are this is one I think from Harper's Bazaar and Glamour magazine, but they're like in everything, and the dresses are great, and the models all look completely fabulous in them. And like I said, I don't think we should. I want to wear sequins, but we do need to do it in a way that doesn't destroy the planet. And like I said before, going out to parties and stuff is important too. And we do want to look good. So the options are, the most sustainable clothes you've got are clothes in your own wardrobe. So can you shop what you've already got? Can you customize it? So the middle picture is actually just it's a top from warehouse, but it's definitely something that you could do at home. The picture with all the stars is some work I did with Matty Bovan for his catwalk collection. I kind of like that idea that if you go really big with sequins, you can make quite a big impact, and you don't have to do too much sewing. But if you don't have anything that you're going to wear, in your own wardrobe you want to wear or customize, can you swap with a friend? Can you borrow something? Can you hire something? And there's a lot of talk kind of in sustainable fashion about hiring outfits, because if you're going to like for one occasion that you need something for, and you know you're not going to wear it again, it seems daft to buy it. But the problem with hiring is it can be really expensive. And I think it probably works if you go into a fancy wedding or something, but doesn't necessarily work for a night out, just in terms of budget. Otherwise, if you are buying, then obviously it's the secondhand, the vintage. You can get amazing things that are going to look different to what everybody else has got. And then finally, if you really, really, really want to buy something new for yourself or for a friend, then try and shop local from small designers. Think about the material your garment's made from. How's it going to look when you wash it? What's going to happen at end of life? And the most important thing is how much you're going to wear it. So make sure that you know you're giving it a bit to wear it 30 times. So it's going to be suitable for different things. And I think that is everything I want to say. So thanks for listening. Get in touch with me if you'd like to about anything. And I'm here for questions as well.